Okay.
Good evening, everyone. The trending hashtag in Zambia right now is turning Zambia upside down. We all know the reasons why that particular hashtag is trending. It's a shame that most of the youths and people like, follow, retweet. Basically, they believe in following entertainment with this enormous passion, when the real issues that are important to us all as Zambians are just left in the shadows. I don't understand why we don't deal with the real issues that we're facing as Zambians with as much passion. Why we don't use our phones to shine light on the real environmental problems we're facing. Why is it always about gossip and entertainment? Anyway, that's a story for another day. We'll use that hashtag to shine a light on environmental issues. Environmental issue number 1, the use of DDT for mosquito control, disease vector control. Let's look at the positive side of this. The positive side of using DDT is the fact that it's very effective and it's very cheap. And obviously, the government has chosen to use DDT for those two reasons. But I think it's also important that we look at the disadvantages so that we're not just criticizing the use of DDT for the sake of it. We need to give reasons why we're against it. The first reason is DDT is a poison. It's dangerous. It was banned worldwide because of its negative impacts on wildlife, on ecosystems, and on the health of human beings. So why would we want to use a banned chemical that we know is going to cause so much damage on ecosystems? So 1, it's a poison. 2, it's a persistent pesticide. That means it's a very stable compound that does not easily degrade or break down. And that's one of the reasons why they like using it. Because once you put it out in the environment, it will remain effective killing for a very long time. But if it's effective for a very long time, it means the negative impacts also persist for a very long time in the environment. That's a bad thing from a health point of view and from a taking care of the environment point of view. The other disadvantage we need to look at is the fact that DDT is normally spread through these 3 media: through the soil, through water, and through the atmosphere. So when the health officials and the health ministers say it's okay to use it for indoor spray because it's not being used for agricultural purposes, that point is coming in because we're looking at how it easily spreads in the environment through the land, soil, and through the water. So that should make it okay to use indoors. Well, it's not okay to use indoors because it still spreads effectively and quickly through the atmosphere. So if you spray it in the house and the house is confined, of course the people inside the house are going to breathe that air that will have DDT. Of course the DDT will circulate through the air and actually come outside, and you have no control of where it goes when it's outside. So the truth is, if we truly care about taking care of the environment, if we truly care about taking care of our citizens, we're supposed to say no to DDT. There are other effective chemicals that we can use in place of DDT. Yes, they are more expensive, but what is the price of a human life? Why should cost be an issue? Zambia itself stopped using DDT in 2010. We haven't used it since 2010. Why all over a sudden are we choosing to use it now? We know one of the reasons why we stopped using it in 2010 was because DDT was a drug to which mosquitoes had developed a resistance. Well, if we know they develop a resistance to DDT, hello, why are we using it again now? Because we know that will happen again. So let's focus on more effective drugs that we know will be effective in controlling mosquitoes and also have a very low impact in terms of pollution of the environment and impacting the health of wildlife and our people negatively. So let's all say no to DDT. Those retweets, hashtags, likes, follows you are spending on pushing an agenda that has absolutely nothing to do with us as Zambians, at least in terms of our welfare, should be spent on real issues like speaking about the dangers of DDT. That's an issue we should all focus on if we're truly trying to turn Zambia upside down in terms of finding a solution to the problems we have. So that's on DDT. We say no to DDT. There are other alternatives. Low costs of the drug is not an enough reason to justify its use when you know we've got documentation from the 60s. Documentation dating back to the time Rachel Carlson released her famous book, The Silent Spring, where she documented the effects of DDT on wildlife, mostly on farm ecosystems. But we know the danger does not only isolate itself to farm ecosystems or agriculture. It also exists in the health sector. So let's not worry about the low costs of DDT. Let's worry about the dangers we're exposing our people to by using such a cheap drug. Let's pick an expensive drug that's good for the environment and also good for us all. That's environmental issue number one we're supposed to look at. Environmental issue number two, that's a pressing issue in Zambia, is the high rate of deforestation. 250,000 to 300,000 hectares being lost each year in Zambia. We have one of the highest deforestation rates in the world, the highest in Africa. The reason why we have one of the highest deforestation rates is because we are blessed with so many trees, so much vegetation. You can't have a high deforestation rate if you don't have a lot of trees. So there is a blessing and curse to this high deforestation rate. It exists because we've got so much of this vegetation. But if we are losing 300,000 hectares a year, we won't have that vegetation for long. It means very soon we'll be like Malawi and Zimbabwe and Botswana, who have lost most of their vegetation. At least we have a chance to wake up and do something to control the deforestation rate. Trees are important for our environment because they are connected to the hydrological cycle, the rainwater cycle. So instead of focusing on building dams, opening more dams because we need to generate electricity, we are supposed to be focusing on maintaining the river basins, on maintaining the forests that we have in Zambia, because those contribute to the production of rainfall, which we need to generate electricity when it finds itself in our rivers. So we might build 100 dams, but if there is no water to fill up these dams, then what are these dams for? Why are we building all these dams if we don't care about the number of trees we are losing every minute, every week, every month, every year? The priority is supposed to be the trees, controlling deforestation before we look at the dams. Otherwise, you'll be busy shutting up one dam because you're trying to fill up another dam. It's because you don't have enough water. And you don't have enough water because of the tremendous rate at which you are harvesting these trees. You are harvesting them at a rate much faster than a rate you're using to regenerate them, plant them back. That brings me to the planting season we're having. It's the rainy season, so we'll be planting trees very soon. Let's not just plant trees. Let's take care of trees. What we do when we go for these planting exercises is each one of us gets this sapling and we proudly move around with a sapling, and then we plant it and we water it and we have pictures taken, and we post the pictures on social media to prove we're environmental heroes. Well, that's not enough if you're truly an environmental hero. You should care what happens to that plant you've planted. Will it still be alive after 2 weeks? After a month? After 6 months? After 1 year? 60% of the trees we plant never get to survive after 3 months, because all we do is plant and walk away forever. No one ever goes back to check on the tree they planted. So we're supposed to go beyond planting trees. It should be beyond a theme of tree planting. It should be a theme about taking care of trees, making sure that as many as possible of those trees actually survive. Problem number 3 in Zambia, that we should turn Zambia upside down for instead of entertainment. The issue of harvesting vegetation in protected areas. Hello, Forest 27. We'll never stop talking about Forest 27 because it's an important ecosystem for Lusaka. So we'll talk about Forest 27 till kingdom come. Forest 27 is experiencing a tremendous amount of vegetation loss. It's a shame people don't get to see what's really going on there. There are aspects of it that are intact, but the majority of it, the trees are going because of the chopping down of trees and the charcoal making and harvesting. Lusakans, I'm specifically talking about Lusaka people. So we're going to be concerned about what's going on Facebook instead of worrying about what's going to happen to our underground water when we lose all those trees. I won't talk about the construction going on there. My emphasis right now is on deforestation. We're supposed to raise our voices and speak for those trees. We're supposed to raise our voices and speak for Forest 27. Because if we do not do that, no one will. And we're not the ones that are going to suffer when all those trees are gone and the underground water is no longer there. What we're trying to do is protect a heritage, a resource for future generations. And we're supposed to have that as a major priority. We're supposed to be making noise on that, engaging various stakeholders on that, engaging politicians and our MPs and our councillors on that. But how many of us do that? Oh no, we don't care. Because the most important thing is turning Zambia upside down for our celebrities. Wow, we do have a good arrangement of priorities, don't we? Last issue I would like to talk about. Our national parks. They are protected areas for a reason. They are protected areas because they are a heritage we've inherited and we're supposed to pass on to the next generation. Our national parks are meant to be ecosystems for our wildlife. So it matters what we do in these national parks. What we're doing in the Mosotonia National Park, building hotels in the national park, is not good at all. We know the hotels have been approved, there are EIAs that have approved the building. But we need to be careful about what's going on the ground. Are these constructions following all the conditionalities that were given by ZEMA? If you look at the Mosotonia National Park, the corridor is literally blocked. The reason why we have this escalation in the human-animal conflict is because of the fact that the elephants have got nowhere else to go. So now they're straying into the neighborhood and communities where people live. They're finding themselves in Dambwa because they've got nowhere else to go. So what are we going to do about that problem? What are we going to do about that problem? We'll just sit back and watch the human-animal conflict escalate? Or we'll try and control the rate at which these projects are coming up? We know there's another hotel that's supposed to start. Construction is supposed to start pretty soon. Is that something we're supposed to allow? Isn't tourism in Zambia mostly based on wildlife itself than it's based on hotels? Who needs a golf course in a national park? Whom are you entertaining? Who comes to Zambia to a national park in Africa to play golf? Is that something we're even supposed to entertain? They can play golf in Dubai, they can play golf in Florida. God knows the golf courses there are top class. Let's focus on preserving our wildlife. That's the real calling card. That's the real treasure we have to draw tourists to our country. If we lose the elephants, if we lose the wildlife, tourism automatically dies, because there'll be nothing for people to come and see. The next reason why we're supposed to protect our ecosystems and wildlife in the national parks is because we know, because of the high deforestation rate taking place in Zimbabwe, Namibia, Botswana, the elephants are now trying to move upwards. So they are coming to Zambia. And when they come to Zambia through our corridors, they normally head to the Kafue National Park. So we're supposed to preserve this ecosystem because it is the last preserve of nature that these elephants will have. Botswana is said to have 150,000 elephants. Well, guess what? Those elephants not only belong to Botswana, they belong to all the countries that have corridors through which these elephants move. So we have a responsibility to maintain ecosystems that will be a home, secure and safe enough for those elephants. Those 150,000 elephants are our elephants too. So we should do everything we can to protect our national parks, preserve these ecosystems so that these animals can continue to exist and we can continue to look at tourism booming and growing and becoming a key economic sector for our country. We cannot depend on mining. We know we can't. It's a proven fact. We've tried to diversify our economy since 1964 and we haven't managed. One of the reasons why we haven't managed is because we haven't concentrated on agriculture and tourism. They could easily replace mining. Turning Zambia upside down, well, we thought we should talk about environmental issues, and we hope we've given you some information in terms of what we're supposed to do in terms of being a voice for the environment, a voice for nature, a voice for wildlife. Have a pleasant night.